Sophie did not sleep all night. She was excited. Early in the morning, her father called her. "Come on, Sophie. It's time to get up. It's a long way to the station." Sophie got dressed, and she was soon ready. She did not eat any breakfast. She was nervous. She was going to visit her aunt in Naira, and she was going alone on a train for the first time. Sophie and her father left the village and began to walk to the station. It was a long way. They reached the station at midday. Soon the train came. It was nearly empty. Sophie got in. She was frightened. It was her first journey away from home. "Your aunt will meet you at Naira," her father said. "Be careful now, Sophie. Don't talk to any strangers." The train started suddenly. Soon it was going fast. Sophie watched her father. He looked smaller and smaller, then he disappeared. The train journey was very long. Sophie looked out of the window. The fields, trees, villages, and animals rushed past. After a long time, she began to feel sleepy. She was very tired. Slowly, she fell asleep. Later, Sophie woke up. It was dark outside. She felt small and lost. She was a long way from her village and her father. There was a man in the carriage with her now. He had an ugly face, and he was very big and strong. His hair was very short. He looked bad and dangerous. The man smiled at Sophie. "Hello," he said. "You're awake now, are you? Where are you going?" Sophie remembered her father's words. She did not say anything. "Are you going to Polona?" asked the man. Sophie was surprised. "No, to Naira," she said. "Naira?" said the man. "But we passed Naira 2 hours ago. You were asleep." Sophie wanted to cry. She sat very still. It was warm in the carriage, but Sophie felt cold. "We've passed Naira?" she asked. "Yes," said the man. Sophie thought of the journey back to Naira. How much would it cost? She did not have any money. She thought of her aunt at Naira station. "Don't worry," said the man. "I'll help you. What's your name?" "Sophie," she said. "My name is Emma," said the man. "You can trust me, Sophie." Sophie looked at Emma again. He was very ugly. He had a long scar on his face, and he looked dangerous. But he seemed kind. Was he good or bad? Sophie did not know. The train began to slow down. Emma got up and looked out of the window. Sophie saw a newspaper on Emma's seat. There was a photograph on the back page. It was Emma's photograph. Above the photograph was a headline, "This man is a dangerous gladiator." Now Sophie was sure Emma was a bad man and dangerous too. He was a criminal. Sophie must be careful. She must get away from him quickly. Emma left the window. "We're coming into Polona now," he said. "Stay with me. I'll help you." The train stopped. Sophie jumped up and ran to the door. She wanted to run away, but the door was very heavy. She could not open it. "I'll open it," he said. At the station exit, Sophie was stopped. "Where is your ticket?" "This ticket is for Naira." "I fell asleep. I passed Naira. I haven't got any money," Sophie said. "I'll pay," said a voice. It was Emma. Thank you, sir, he said. Come with me. Sophie wanted to run away, but she was frightened of Emma. She was tired and lost. Polona was a big town. Sophie did not know anybody there. Emma called a taxi. Get in, Sophie, he said. Sophie got in. The Boxer Hotel, Emma said to the driver. The taxi went a long way. The streets of Polona were wide and busy. There were lots of cars, shops, and people. The taxi turned into a small, dark street and stopped. Emma got out and paid the taxi driver. Come on, Sophie, said Emma. Sophie could not run away. She was weak and slow. Emma was big and strong. She followed Emma into the hotel. There was a cafe inside the hotel. It did not look very clean. 2 men were drinking and playing cards. They saw Emma. One of them said, Hello, Emma, my. Come and have a drink. Who's the pretty girl? Emma took off his coat and sat down. Hello, Tino. Hello, Bubs, he said. This is Sophie. She's lost. The men looked at Sophie and laughed. Lost, is she? Said Tino. Poor Sophie. You're a lucky man, Emma. Have a drink. Emma gave Sophie a chair. She sat down. She looked at the men. Tino had a mustache. Bubs did not have any front teeth. They looked tough. The men were drinking. Tino gave Sophie a glass. Come on, Sophie, he said. Drink some wine. Sophie pushed the glass away. She thought, I mustn't eat or drink anything. These men will give me a drug. Then I will fall asleep. Emma called the waiter. Bring some dinner, he said. Bring some good, hot food. The waiter came with the food. Bubs put some of the food on a plate and gave it to Sophie. It looked good and smelled delicious. Sophie forgot about drugs and began to eat. She ate quickly and finished everything. She put her spoon down. The men were looking at her. They laughed. Sophie was very frightened again. Come on, Sophie, said Emma. You're tired. You must go to bed now. He took her arm. Lock her door, Emma said to Tino. There are bad men in Polona. You must keep her safe. Bubs laughed. Good night, Sophie, he said. Emma took Sophie upstairs and into a bedroom. Her heart was beating fast. Good night, Sophie, said Emma. He smiled at her. Don't worry, you are safe here. Sophie did not say anything. Emma seemed kind, but she remembered the newspaper. Emma was dangerous, and his friends looked dangerous too. She must escape. Emma went out of the room and shut the door. He locked it and went downstairs. Sophie sat on the bed and cried. Downstairs, the men drank and played cards. Sophie heard their voices. They were laughing. After a long time, she fell asleep. Sophie woke late. The sun was shining. She looked out of the window. The waiter was sitting outside in the street. He was smoking a cigarette and reading a newspaper. Sophie looked around the room. It was dirty. There was some old paper on the floor. In one corner, there was a small table with some things on it. Sophie had an idea. There was a biro on the table. She took the biro and picked up a piece of paper from the floor. She wrote, Please help me. I want to go to Naira. My aunt is waiting for me there. I must escape. I have no money and no friends. Sophie. She threw the note out of the window. The waiter picked it up. He read the note. He looked up and saw her. He smiled at her and went into the hotel. Sophie heard voices outside her room. Somebody unlocked the door. The waiter came in. There was somebody on the stairs behind him. It's a policeman, thought Sophie. He's brought a policeman. She ran forward, but it was Emma. He was holding her note in his hand. Good afternoon, Sophie, said Emma. You've slept very late. You must be hungry. Come and have some food. We're going soon. The waiter smiled at Emma. Sophie understood now. The waiter did not want to help her. He and Emma were friends. Sophie went downstairs with Emma. They gave her some food, but she was not hungry. She did not eat or drink anything. Emma went outside into the street. Sophie heard voices. Emma was talking to a man. What were they planning? Emma came inside again. Come on, Sophie, we must go now, he said. A taxi was waiting outside. Sophie and Emma got in. Where are we going? Sophie asked. Emma looked at her. I'll take you to your aunt later, he said. First, I have an important job to do. Emma smiled. The smile twisted his face. He looked very ugly. Soon the taxi stopped. Emma and Sophie got out. They were outside a big building. There was a notice outside. Sophie understood now. Emma was a boxer. Dangerous gladiator meant good boxer. Emma was not a criminal. Sophie followed Emma into the building. It was a very big hall. There were seats on all sides. In the middle was the boxing ring. Tino and Bubs were waiting for them. Stay here, Sophie, said Emma. Tino and Bubs will look after you. I must go now. Tino and Bubs shook Emma's hand. Good luck, Emma, said Bubs. You'll win, said Tino. Sophie smiled at Emma for the first time. Good luck, Emma, she said. Tino and Bubs took Sophie to a seat beside the ring. Tino sat on one side of her, and Bubs sat on the other. Sophie sat quietly and waited. The two men talked excitedly. Emma's going to win, said Tino. Of course he'll win, said Bubs. He's the best gladiator in the country. Sophie listened. Emma was famous. Everybody wants him to win, said Tino. Everybody likes him. That's right, said Bubs. Emma's a great boxer, and he's a good man, too. I know a story about Emma, said Tino. One night he was asleep in bed when he heard shouts in the street. He looked outside, and a house was on fire. He ran outside. There was a child in the burning house. He went inside and saved the child, but he was badly hurt. His face was burned, and he got a bad scar. Poor Emma, said Bubs. That's why he's so ugly. They both laughed. Sophie was listening quietly. She now understood everything. She was safe with Emma. She felt sorry for him. Is the fight going to start soon? She asked. Yes, of course, said Tino. It will start very soon. The hall was full of people now. Boys were selling cigarettes and sweets. Everybody was laughing and joking. The referee was waiting in the ring. The audience was excited. Now, Emma! Emma! We want Emma! They shouted. Emma climbed into the ring. He was wearing short trousers and big boxing gloves. He raised both hands in the air. The crowd was clapping. "Emma! Emma! Emma!" they shouted. The other gladiator climbed into the ring. He was very big and strong. "Here comes Danny," said Tino. "He's a very good gladiator." Sophie was worried. "Don't you worry, Sophie," said Bubs. "Emma's the best gladiator in the country." The referee called the two boxers to the center of the ring. He spoke to them quietly for a few moments. Then Emma and Danny shook hands. The two gladiators went back to their corners and waited. A bell rang, and the fight began. Danny was younger than Emma, but he was a good gladiator. He moved fast. He tried to hit Emma, but Emma jumped away every time. Emma's arms were long. He moved very quickly. He hit Danny hard many times. Sophie was very excited. Her hands held the seat tightly. It was a long fight. Emma moved quickly. He hit Danny often, but Danny did not fall down. Emma was getting tired. He was moving more slowly. Sophie was worried. The crowd was shouting, "Emma! Emma!" Sophie shouted, "Emma! Emma, come on, Emma, watch out!" Tino and Bubs were shouting too. Danny hit Emma's face hard. Blood came out of Emma's nose, and one of his eyes was nearly closed. But Emma did not stop. He ran forward and hit Danny with all his strength. Danny fell over and lay still. The referee started to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Danny did not move. 5, 6, 7. Danny tried to get up. He could not. 8, 9, 10. Danny lay still. The fight was over. Emma was the winner. Sophie was laughing and clapping. "Well done, Emma! Well done, Emma!" she shouted. Nobody heard her. Everybody was shouting, "Emma! We want Emma! We want Emma!" Tino and Bubs took Sophie to the dressing room. Emma was resting. "Hello, Emma," said Sophie. "You were great." Emma was surprised. "Hello, Sophie," he said. "You're different now. You didn't talk to me before." "I'm sorry, Emma," said Sophie. "I know," said Emma. "I'm big and ugly, and you were frightened. But I'm not a criminal, Sophie." "I'm sorry, Emma," Sophie said again. "I was wrong. I'm not frightened now." Emma was pleased. "Come on, Sophie," he said. "We'll go to Naira now. Your aunt is waiting for you." Sophie said goodbye to Tino and Bubs. She got into a taxi with Emma. It was a long way to Naira, and Sophie asked Emma many questions. They talked and talked and talked. They reached Naira at night. It was dark. Emma knew Naira. He quickly found Sophie's aunt's house. They knocked on the door. Sophie's aunt was standing in the doorway. She was crying. "Oh, Sophie! Sophie!" she said. "Thank God you are here at last." Then she saw Emma. He looked terrible. His face was cut and bruised after the fight. "Sophie," she said, "who is this man?" "Auntie," Sophie said, "don't be angry. This is Emma. I fell asleep on the train. I passed Naira station. Emma helped me. He took me to a hotel. He brought me to Naira in a taxi." Sophie's aunt looked at Emma again. "Wait a minute," she said. She ran inside. She came back with a newspaper. Emma's photograph was on the back page. "Are you Emma the boxer?" she asked. "Yes, I am," said Emma. Sophie's aunt was pleased. Emma was famous. He was a great man. Everybody knew him. "Come in, Emma," she said. "Please sit down. Will you have some tea?" Sophie sat in the room with her aunt and Emma. She did not say anything. He felt very happy. Sophie's aunt asked Emma many questions. She laughed a lot. She liked him. It was getting very late. "I must go now," Sophie said. "Can I come and see you again?" "Yes," Emma said. Sophie smiled at him.